Coming up on today's video, I'm going to discuss ESPN's perfect fit for the New Orleans Saints in a second round or third round or fourth round, but just not a day one selection. We're also going to talk about the mock draft roundup with picks coming in from ESPN, NFL Network, CBS Sports, The Athletic, and more. But before we do that, we're closing in on 27,000 subscribers, so help a brother out. Lock us in today and hit that sub button for more daily Saints videos for 100% free. I promise. You will not regret it. But let's talk about this ESPN draft target. You guys are going to love this guy's name. Mohamed Kamara, whatever. You like the name? Solely based on the name, I'm making this pick. I don't, for the record, no relation to Alvin Kamara. There is no relation to Alvin Kamara. They have the same last name, but they are not a part of the same family. But ESPN did select Mohamed Kamara, the edge rusher out of Colorado State, to be a prospect that fills a need outside of round one. And in 2023, he was the Mountain West Conference Defensive Player of the Year. And at the end of the day, some of the attributes about him, he has a really great motor, not the best size, but he knows how to play with leverage, so that way he can still win when pass rushing. And the stats for Kamara are freaking impressive. Look at that. In 12 games, he had 13 sacks. He averaged more than 1 sack a game. Ladies and gentlemen, that's really good production. He also had 64 pressures. Then in 2022, 8.5 sacks, 53 pressures. In 2021, 6.5 sacks, 21 pressures. And in 2020, very limited sample size, 1.5 sacks, 6 pressures. But here's the thing. I know that he's not coming from LSU. I understand he's not coming from Florida State. I get that he's not coming from an Ohio State or a Texas or a big-time Power 5, like powerhouse school that's always cranking out NFL caliber players. To be quite honest, I hope I'm outside of my 2 minutes. I don't give a shit where he went to school. If he has good production, I'm in on it. I couldn't care less. Like, there are so many examples of players coming from small schools that went on to do very good things in the NFL. Of course, it's not nearly as many who went to big schools and made big things in the NFL, but my point being, I think that this would be a really good addition to the Saints defense. Because when you look at the advanced stats, his overall PFF grade is stellar. The pass rush grade is through the freaking roof. He's also a good run stopper. He's not great, but he's a good run stopper. And his pass rush win rate, just under 20%. Guys, that's really freaking good. And the run stop rate, 5.1%. Not bad. Could be better. Not bad, though. But this guy is a freaking animal. And I think that the Ram would be an absolute hammer on the Saints defense. I think that the Colorado State Ram would be a battering ram in New Orleans. Give him to me in round 3 or 4. You might be saying, Trace, you don't have a third or fourth round selection. The Saints pick in round 1, they pick in round 2, a plethora of fifth round selections. Okay, cool. Trade up. You can trade up. Or hell, you can even trade down. But if this guy is available in round 3 or 4, hell yeah, I would love to go and get him. Hell yeah, if he's there at round 5, don't even think about it. Make the freaking selection. But if you can't go and get Kamara, what about Jaylen Green? We've talked about him before. I think he's a late round sleeper. And this guy's production is stellar. 15.5 sacks for JMU, 50 tackles. And again, it's a small school guy. But don't forget, don't get it twisted. James Madison was a top 25 team this past year. They were a good football team. Ever since they took the leap to Division I, they have been a quality program. Jaylen Green has been a big part of their defensive success. And I would love to bring in Jaylen Green to New Orleans. But I want to ask you this one question. What say you, Saints fans? How big of a need is defensive line? Just scale it for me, 1 to 100. For me, I'm going to put it at about a 78. I don't think it's quite at an 80. I think that offensive line is like a 90. I think you can kind of take a little bit of a rest on defensive line, go and get a guy, but it's not like we have to make a pick in round 1. So scale it for me, 1 to 100. And really quick plug, you guys see the lid that I'm rocking? It's absolutely fresh, it's funky, and it's the coolest thing I've ever worn. Really breathable material. It's very comfortable. You can get the same hat as me if you use this link right below me. Chatsports.com/SaintsRope has the rope on the rope hat. That's why we made it the link. It's from Fanatics, but if you use our link, Fanatics will know that 1, we sent you, and 2, it supports the show, and 3, you can get geared up. But let's keep going to the draft rumors, and let's talk about this mock draft roundup. So ESPN, in their latest mock draft, had the Saints selecting Taliese Fuaga. He's a right tackle kind of guy. He can play really good football. He's a mauler. He's aggressive. And I would like that selection specifically to fill in and replace Ryan Ramczyk. Now, NFL.com had Olu Fashanu. I love that pick. Like, I want to make it very clear here. Olu Fashanu is a outstanding selection for New Orleans. I would love that pick. That is my number one offensive line target outside of Joe Alt. And honestly, I'm starting to kind of reconvene here. Olu Fashanu might be my number one guy in general. Taliese Fuaga from CBS Sports, we already talked about him, so not much to say there. The Athletic did have Brock Bowers getting selected by the New Orleans Saints. In Walter Football, they had Jared Verse getting drafted by New Orleans. I think that they won't really go defensive line in round one, especially adding Chase Young. I think that kind of puts a nail in the coffin for going and getting an edge rusher in round one. But I wanted to grade all of these picks. So I'm going to just kind of go from the best to the worst grade. I love the pick. Olu Fashanu, A+. It's a great pick. Just plain and simple. I've done a lot of draft analysis. I've talked about him on the channel a lot. Really could click into any video about the draft and we probably talk Olu Fashanu. Taliese Fuaga, I give an A-. I want to shore up the left tackle side more than the right tackle side because right now, as things stand, Ryan Ramczyk could be ready to go for the season. We don't really know how badly the injury is, but we do know that Trevor Penning is not it. We need a left tackle. And maybe, just maybe, Ryan Ramczyk can play, so that's why I'm saying left tackle over right tackle. That's why A- versus A+ versus A-. Walter Football for Jared Verse. I gave it an A-. I mean, it's like I like the pick. To be honest, though, it would be kind of closer to a B-. Now that I'm kind of thinking about it, just because it's not as big of a need. But Brock Bowers, I give a B+ because I think pass catcher is important for the Saints, but offensive line is my number one thing. You have to go get offensive line in round one, if you ask me. But for the record, I want to make one thing clear here. The Saints do need offensive line. That's kind of been the theme of the day. But I wouldn't mind Brock Bowers. I want that to be very well known here. I want offensive line, but if Olu Fashanu, Troy Fontenot, Taliese Fuaga, J.C. Latham, I'm not even high on J.C. Latham. I personally wouldn't make that selection. But if all of the top tackles are gone, don't force the offensive line pick. Take a guy like Brock Bowers at 14 and select another offensive lineman in round 2. This offensive tackle draft class is so deep, I think you can afford to get a guy in the second round if a special player like Brock Bowers falls. He's a generational player, and if you can pair him with Clint Kubiak, maybe, just maybe, you can get very similar usage and production that George Kittle got in San Francisco when Kubiak was in San Fran as well. But get crazy for me. I want you to drop a bold take, a red-hot, fiery take for the NFL draft in the comment section. I'm going to give you 1 second. I'm going to let you get yours in. For mine, I think Malik Nabers might go before Marvin Harrison Jr. And I am not an LSU fan. I went to the University of Arkansas. But I really like what Malik Nabers has been doing in the pre-draft process. I really like the tape on Nabers. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is a great wide receiver. Don't get me wrong. I think two things can be true. Both can be great, but I also think that Malik Nabers might go first. Like, that's my bold take. Might be wrong, but that's why it's a bold take, because I think it's crazy. I think it could happen. But let me know what your bold take is in the comment section. And as always, Saints fans, y'all stay golden.